So that was a quick video. I hope it was like pretty clear. But basically, the problem with I'm going to stop the share right now. So basically, the problem with the Dublin regulation is that people are expected to be processed in the first country that they arrive. So if you're going through like the Mediterranean route, then that's mainly, Italy and Greece. And if you're going on the Western Balkan route, that's primarily Hungary. So this is a huge amount of people coming in to these countries that need to be processed, because the problem is if you're not processed appropriately or accurately or properly, basically, if you go to another EU country, that country can send you back to the first country that you arrived in. So it's like a lot of pressure to process people correctly, which is why Hungary, I guess their explanation of why they built the fence is that they needed to process people correctly. However, there is kind of this unfortunate a xenophobia by the prime minister and the Hungarian government that's also playing on that. But that's really why this is such a big deal, the Dublin regulation. So I'm going back here just to say that, and let's see, go to the next slide. Okay, just a quick contrast with different policies. So Germany had a very different policy than Hungary, and Austria was very similar to Germany, so that's why I'm using the German example. But in September of 2015, Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany, basically welcomed in refugees from Syria and Eritrea and suspended the Dublin regulation for these people. So she basically said that people could travel through but no matter what, even if they weren't processed in places like Hungary or Greece or Italy, they could keep coming to Germany, and then they would be in Germany and protected by Germany. And this was a very, very controversial thing, especially as time has gone on. So at first, the global community, international community was very welcoming of this policy. They thought that she was doing a very great humanitarian justice. But now people are questioning whether or not this was a good idea, and she's actually lost support in Germany, and that's not necessarily a good thing. So, a lot of this has been seen around the world, but there's been a rise in right-wing populism. So a lot of anti-immigrant, globalism or globalization parties, political parties have gained support, including in Germany. We can see that kind of in our own US election. And Germany approximately took in about 890,000 people in 2015, which is, originally they thought it was about 1.1 million people. So this is a big number regardless. But they've taken in a lot of asylum seekers. And so they've started to feel the pressure, or not the pressure, but the difficulty of that, because there are just a lot of people. So I just have a quick question for you guys. So if you, oh my goodness, I'm sorry, one second. Okay, if you guys want to do this with me, it would be awesome. If you could raise your hand for if you think this is or you can stand up if there's room, but if you want, you can stand up and or raise your hand. That's probably easier. So raise your hand if you think the statement is a fact. So if it's correct or true, and stay seated if you think that it's a myth. Okay? Does that sound good? Okay. So Hungary is the only EU country with heightened border controls. So if you think that's true, raise your hands. Okay. Everyone can put their hands down. Okay. Every asylum seeker will be able to stay in Germany, ultimately. If you think that's true, raise your hand. Okay, very cool. And lastly, everyone immigrating or fleeing to Europe in this crisis are coming from Syria. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys the answers to that. Okay, so these are actually all myths, I guess, but they have grains of truth. So Hungary certainly used very strong policies in the beginning, and it stood alone kind of for a while because of that. But in fact, Germany and Austria also imposed border controls. So Germany, just a few days after it announced that everyone could come in, actually issued like temporary border controls. And I actually remember this because I was studying abroad in Vienna, Austria at that time. And it was very hard to get to Germany by train. Like you couldn't really, like trains were canceled. You had to go by bus, which was really unreliable. And so a lot of people were stuck in Vienna because they were trying to get to Germany from Austria by that point. And so it was a major problem. But Bulgaria, Slovenia, and the UK actually in northwestern France have built border fences as well. And Austria plans on it. For the second question about every asylum seeker being able to reside in Germany, that's most likely not, because the EU is considering a quota sharing system now with varying support and opposition throughout the EU, but most likely it looks like they won't be able to stay all go to Germany or Sweden or wherever the prime destination country is. And then lastly, as we saw before, the majority of asylum seekers are from Syria, and according to the Pew Research Center, it's about 29%. Followed by Afghanistan, which is 15%, and Iraq, 10%. And these are all people that can be classified as refugees and like from the Middle East. And that's a majority, but it's certainly not like everybody. So yeah. Okay. Let's see. Anna, do you want to continue talking or should I?
If you want to, I can just pick it back up. Okay. So who knows where, or we're going to switch, we're going to switch a little bit in regions of the world, but we're still going to be talking about immigration and refugees. So Sylvia talked a lot about Hungary, Austria, Germany, and what's going on in Europe. But so my focus country is Nicaragua. Does anybody know where that is? Yeah? Who's got an idea? You can shout it out.
South America.
She said South America. Okay, anybody else have an idea? Okay, all right, so that's all right. So you're really close, which is good, but it's actually in Central America. And Central America is technically part of the North American continent, even though some people may associate it a little bit closer with South America. Okay, so I'm gonna screen share something really quick with y'all. So we're gonna go back here. Okay. All right. So great. All right. So you guys can see this, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. So Nicaragua is in Central America. You can see it right here. This is a good picture. So you can see the U.S., Mexico, and then we go down to Nicaragua. It's this red country right here. And so it is, oops, sorry. Hold on one sec. Sorry, I can't see you all.
I had the same problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry. All right. So let's just go back here. All right. So something to know about immigration and refugees. Have you guys heard about lots of immigration and refugees from Central America? Have you heard about that? No? Okay. So in the past few years, there has been a huge influx of immigrants coming from Central America to the United States. And then they come up through, you can see they'll come up here through Mexico and then try to enter through this southern border usually. And so because of that, there's been a lot of worry about people, like protecting the U.S. from new immigrants and refugees, and people are more concerned. But the important thing to know is that most of these people are coming from what's called like the Northern Triangle. So they're coming from this place it's like Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. Okay, so people from Nicaragua, usually if they migrate, they're going to go down to Costa Rica. Have you guys heard of Costa Rica before? Yeah? Okay, so what do you usually think of when you hear of Costa Rica? Sorry, I can't hear. Do you guys think of anything when you think of Costa Rica?
I think about like tropical.
Tropical, okay. Tropical. So like, what would you do in a tropical area? Like, what do you think that like, what kind of people does that attract? Like tourists, or does that come to mind?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, Costa Rica has a really big tourism industry. You know, you can go snorkeling, you can go hiking. You know, it has a lot of things. It's an amazing place. So people from Nicaragua here, they're gonna migrate to Costa Rica usually, which is interesting, or Panama, okay, because there are a lot of jobs because of the tourism industry, and then so that's really important to know. I think, you know, we don't have as many people from Nicaragua migrating to the U.S. Just because they can go. Costa Rica is closer. There are more jobs. It's safe. And Nicaragua is has a lot of jobs as well. Anyways, yeah, I think that's important to know. So a lot of people from Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras are coming to the U.S. So I just kind of wanted to touch on that. Sorry, are you using this room? Oh, okay, that's really fine. No, you're right. Okay, great. So, awesome. Sorry. So, where was that? All right. So yeah, Nicaragua has like less crime and gangs and drugs because they're located so close to Costa Rica, which is really cool. And so, just touching on Central American migration, they're all coming to the U.S. because they have a lot of crime, and so we're faced with this conflict. Like, are they immigrants because they're fearing their safety and having to move, or are they refugees? So what do you think? Do you think you would classify people fleeing their country, or like right here, because of crime, maybe refugees or immigrants? Refugees. Okay, great. Yeah, so that's a big conflict right now, is that we don't know whether to classify them as immigrants or refugees. Sorry, I'm having to move spaces. Anyways, yeah, so people don't know if they should be classified as immigrants. And as you could see earlier, right here, we only let 3,000 people in from Latin America and the Caribbean. So it's just important to know, and that it's a big problem right now, and that the Obama administration, they recently decided to try to expand the definition of a refugee to include a lot of these people from Central America, because it is scary and people do need help. And so that's where we're at. So, you know, like Europe, we don't have the point of like the definition between an immigrant and a refugee is really important in deciding where you can go. And so,
Anna, if you need to move, we could take some questions for Sylvia if you want.
Yeah, that probably, sorry. I just
yeah, of course.
But yeah, so that was just my main point, is that, you know, the definition is really important between an immigrant and a refugee. And in the U.S., we're still trying to decide what that means for people from Central America.
All right, so yeah, if you guys have any questions about what Sylvia talked to, and then we'll come back to Anna, that would be great. So you can raise your hand if you guys have any questions about what she spoke about. Questions about Hungary, Germany, Austria?
Or about Europe in general, whichever. Okay, back there, I guess.
All right, you got a little bit of our bail. I had a student that asked what was the population of what? Austria?
Austria is 8.6 million people. And Hungary is 10 million. Just to give you guys. Yeah, of course.
Yes, they're taking copious notes. So.
Oh, okay, very cool. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Are you guys interested in the population of Germany, just to compare? Yes? Okay, so the population of Germany is about 80 million people. So that's about 10 times more than Austria and 8 times more than Hungary. So that really shows you that like they certainly have greater, I guess, potential to care for people who like extra residents, like refugees, people coming in seeking asylum, they certainly have better social security nets, and a lot more opportunity there. And that's why people are, really interested in Germany in particular. Yeah. Any other questions?
Oh, they had a question about the fence and like its location.
Yeah, so it's primarily located on the first fence, which was built in fall of last year, was built on the border between Hungary and Serbia. And then they expanded it to include the border between Hungary and Croatia, because what they found were a lot of people, instead of going from Serbia to Hungary, would go from Croatia to Hungary, and then Hungary to Austria, instead of going through Slovenia, because Slovenia also started to build a fence between Slovenia and Croatia. It's very complicated.
All right, thanks, Sylvia. Are you ready, Anna?
Yeah, I'm good.
Switch gears back to Nicaragua.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, I pretty much got my main point across that, like I said, defining a refugee and an immigrant is really difficult, and especially for the U.S., Central America, immigration from Central America is maybe something that we see more because we are closer into proximity, right? Because to go from Syria to the U.S. would be a long boat ride, right? Like it would be really long. So people don't make that. But people can come, are really like seeking their safety now. Not from necessarily Nicaragua, mainly from like Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. But something really important is just that, they're not looking for jobs necessarily anymore. They're seeking safety. So we have to kind of rework our definition to be more inclusive in the U.S. to help people out. But I would love to answer any questions that you all have about this kind of region. I know it's a little bit different from what Sylvia's been talking about. Yeah. Do you have a question?
Not sure if it was a question or a wave.
Oh, wave. Yeah.
They're muted right now.
Okay. Let's see.
Any questions, Ms. Sanderlin, about Nicaragua and immigration from Central America? Oh, I see some hands.
No, actually, I think she's over here hand sanitizing.
Okay.
Oh, Kyla does have a question.
Okay, yeah.
And I can in the back. All right, come on over back. Somebody at the door now. If Donald Trump was elected as the president, do you think the U.S.'s views on immigration would change?
Wait, sorry, can you repeat your question really quick?
Yes. If Donald Trump was elected as our president, do you think the U.S.'s views or policies on immigration would change from where they are now?
Yes, I definitely think that they will change. He's thrown he has a lot of anti-immigration views and policies. And so you hear, like, maybe have heard about the wall. And like, we have a very extensive border control as of now. And so, yeah, I think, the two main runners, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, have very different views on immigration. And I think Hillary Clinton is more based on trying to integrate people into society and, create more of a streamlined process to help immigrants and maybe refugees gain either like resident status or asylum. Over 50% of immigrants coming from Central America are applying through like family connections for a residential status. So if they have one family member in the U.S., then they'll apply to like keep their family together, which is really big. And being with their family is important. And so with Donald Trump, he is trying to limit immigration in the country. And so that's the thing. It's like if we are calling these people refugees, right, then we kind of have to take a certain amount, or, we have to work with them to give them asylum. Whereas if we call them immigrants, we can put that cap on, and it's definitely more difficult.
Can I add something real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Yeah. So, like the case of Hungary is really extreme in the U.S. and, or I'm sorry, in Europe, not in the U.S. And he's often, Viktor Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary, has actually been called the Donald Trump of Europe. So, like, he definitely has a similar opinion, I guess, on immigrants and also refugees, unfortunately. And because Hungary has a very interesting kind of, like, they're a democracy, but, like, are they really a situation, because, like, media is basically controlled by the state. The president, the prime minister, and the government are able to use, like, media as, like, propaganda for their policies. And so they really label, like, any immigrants, even refugees, as being dangerous and as having, a lot of problems. And I mean, there are, like, reasons, I guess, for that, because there have been incidents of sexual assault on European women from people coming from this crisis. And so, like, stuff like that, and obviously just the increase in terrorism in Europe has certainly sparked fears, but I don't think that it's an excuse to necessarily, like, try to shut everybody out, I guess. So, yeah, anyway, sorry. Just wanted to add that in.
No, I think that's really important, right? So we can see their differences in how every country handles things, and some things that one country does can apply to another, and sometimes the situation is completely different.
Yep.
So, I mean, I just have a question for you all. If there are more immigrants or refugees in the U.S., how do you feel about it? I mean, like, does that make you excited? Does it make you scared? Does it, do you feel like we have an obligation to help people who are suffering, right? Or how do you feel about it?
I feel that I'll be scared if more refugees and immigrants come, because, like, you never know what they're up to, and you never know their background or anything. And plus, it'll be more people, so you have to work harder, and then your jobs may be taken and everything. And yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Does anybody else have a different view?
Okay. So I said that it would be nice to have, like, different, like, races and stuff like that, because you can learn new things and, like, you can benefit off of it. But it will also be, like, I guess, scary, because then I guess more resources would be, like, used, and then you have to, like you said, work harder. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We'll take one more, and then we'll let Sylvia close it up, because I think your class time is about to end, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's take one more, and then we'll let Sylvia close it up for us.
I think it'll be good, because we'll be giving people, like the refugees and the immigrants, a chance to get out of their countries, because they can be in danger. I mean, it would be scary, because they probably will take, like, more of our opportunities, but it'll also be wonderful, because we'll be helping those people get out of those, like, violent communities or backgrounds.
Okay, great. Sylvia, we can't hear you.
Sorry. So I just wanted to say real quick, like, before I wrap it up, that so you can see that even in your class, like, there are different views on the subject, and that really just shows, like, that everybody has an opinion, and sometimes it's all a different opinion, and that's how it is in the EU. It's how different governments and politicians view it. So it's really hard to find a compromise on this topic, but it's very necessary to find a compromise, because it's happening now and it has to happen soon. So I'm just going to do, not even going to do the screen share, but I just have a couple of closing questions. In addition to saying that, we're able to learn that not only do different people have different opinions on this issue and have different definitions maybe of what, of who can be should be let into a country, But clearly, like, there is a difference between immigrants and migrants. And does anybody want to tell me the main difference? I know we did this in the beginning, but just as a recap, because this is really important for the lesson, for our lesson.
Did you mean between immigrants and refugees or immigrants and migrants?
Yeah.
Okay, between immigrants and refugees.
Okay,
Yeah.
so refugees will like leave from their country to like badly, but like immigrants they'll come to different countries to like trauma.
Okay. Very good. Awesome. And then my last question is just, since we did see, a lot of different countries and they have different opinions on this, can you name 2 countries affected by specifically the European crisis? Like 2 countries we talked about. It doesn't have to be the 2 countries we talked about, but.
I'm here. Germany and Sweden.
Yeah, definitely. Very good.
Hungary.
That too. Yep. I mean, really, you can name almost every country in the EU because they're all affected by it. So it's kind of it's a very broad answer choice with the question. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I guess those are really the 2 things I was going to do for conclusion. Anna, do you have anything else you want to say?
No, I mean, I really enjoyed talking with y'all today. If I would really encourage you to have these discussions about, what you think more immigrants or refugees are, mean for a country and how you feel about it, and maybe think about it from their perspective, right? If you think about why they're moving and what they're trying to get and what life maybe they want by moving. Both in, the situation of a refugee and immigrant. I think these are important questions. And so thanks again. I know we're right at the end of our time, but I hope you have a great rest of your Monday. And thanks again for chatting with us.
Yeah, thank you so much.